Tensions are flaring over the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh, with both Armenian and Azerbaijani forces accusing each other of attacks on their territory. Armenia claims Turkey has shot down one of its warplanes, which the Turkish president and his Azerbaijani allies deny. Violence in recent days has been the region's worst in decades, but Azerbaijan and Armenia have rejected calls for peace talks.
These scenes have put the international community on edge. But for the residents of both Armenia and Azerbaijan, they have been a long time coming. The focus of the fighting is the Nagorno-Karabakh region. The dispute itself is decades old, beginning in the early 1990s, when the ethnically Armenian region declared independence from Azerbaijan. That independence has never been recognised by the international community, which is urging for calm from both sides.
It was less a debate than a verbal brawl. President Donald Trump, lagging in polls, lashed out early and dominated the clock. Trump repeatedly sought to throw Joe Biden off balance with a blizzard of interruptions that left the moderators scrambling to regain control.
The worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris, that was the worst part of Obama.
Let me ask my question. President, I'm the moderator of this debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your question.
Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I understand it, sir, but I have to give you roughly equal time. Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
Biden, sometimes struggling to get back to his point, repeatedly lost patience.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen.
There were moments of coherent conversation on why each should be president.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years.
The people on board this ferry have been waiting for this moment for a long time. They're among thousands of refugees on Greece's East Aegean islands who received asylum months ago and haven't been allowed onto the mainland because there wasn't enough accommodation for them. After a fire destroyed Europe's biggest refugee camp on Lesbos earlier this month, the government decided to move them. It started with the most vulnerable, unaccompanied minors, and is now moving those who've received asylum. This Kuwaiti Bedouin has been in Greece for nearly 2 years. 8 months ago, he and his 2 sons received asylum. Now that he's on mainland Europe, he doesn't plan to stay in Greece. In theory, refugees who are granted asylum are free to fend for themselves. In Greece, with unemployment at 15% and few integration programs, it's almost impossible to do. So, the International Organization for Migration is putting these people up in hotels for 2 months.
As China seeks to try and provoke India yet again amidst the ongoing border dispute, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs has made it clear that it will never accept China's 1959 unilaterally defined line of actual control. Now, India has called upon China to sincerely and faithfully abide by all agreements and understandings in their entirety and refrain from advancing an untenable unilateral interpretation of the line of actual control. Now, India's reply to China's provocation comes after Beijing said that it does not recognize the Union Territory of Ladakh, which is an integral territory of India. Now, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin made false accusations that India had illegally established the Union Territory of Ladakh and opposed infrastructure development in border areas.
It's been a busy morning for the Hawks. They've arrested several people, including 4 senior government officials in 3 provinces. The arrests are related to a 255 million rand asbestos house roofing project in the Free State. Prices for the project were grossly inflated, with another company eventually finishing the job for just over 21 million rand.
In total, we're expecting 7 arrests annually. There's certainly been a lot of movement in the course of today, where we saw an arrest one of the directors in Rosebank. We are now in Bryanston, just outside a black head consulting offices, where a search and seizure operation is being done by the Hawks with the suspect inside.
He was known for being a peacemaker, for being very pragmatic in his foreign policy, and for trying to find solutions to disputes, including the Qatar crisis. He was also one of the longest running foreign ministers. He was the foreign minister of Kuwait from 1963 to 2003. So incredibly long time that he held an important position. And he presided as the foreign minister over Kuwait during the Gulf War, which was one of the most critical periods in Kuwait history. He was also known for forging personal ties and for being very old school. So he was very, very different than some of these more brash and more confident, outspoken types of princes that have emerged, particularly in Saudi Arabia with Crown Prince Salman.
The small town of Gorleben in northern Germany will not become a nuclear waste repository, but 90 other areas all over the country are still contenders. This is the conclusion of the interim report of a supervisory board looking into the issue. The so-called sub-areas have been proposed due to their geological characteristics.
In this first step, we have found that 54% of the German territory is potentially suitable for permanent storage. This means that any area now shown will not automatically become a permanent site.
The salt dome in Gorleben in Lower Saxony, which was planned as a nuclear waste repository in the 70s, is now out of the question. The site had been fiercely contested for decades.
India on Wednesday successfully test-fired an extended-range Brahmos supersonic cruise missile. The missile, launched from a land-based facility in Odisha, is capable of hitting targets at more than 400-kilometer range. The missile was launched with an indigenous booster. This is the second test firing of the extended-range version of the missile. Reports say that the original 290 km range Brahmos has already been deployed at the line of actual control in Ladakh as well as in Arunachal Pradesh amid tensions with China. All the parameters were met during the trial, a DRDO official said after the missile was test-fired at 10:45 am. The missile can be launched from land, sea platforms as well as fighter jets, he said.
Presidents Yoweri Museveni and John Magufuli in September signed a deal to build the pipeline which will cross from southwestern Uganda to Tanzania's port of Tanga. The oil project will be run by French company Total and Chinese company Sinopec. It is not yet clear when construction of the nearly 1,500-kilometer or 900-mile line will begin, but it is expected to take up to 3 years to finish and to displace thousands of people. Few details have been released on the payout, and Ugandan activists worry the oil project could damage Lake Albert and nature reserves.
How are these wells going to impact on the fishing? Because there are spillovers that happen. And when you look at the environmental social impact assessment, it shows you the depth where they pick the oil from.
Doctors say a Massachusetts man died from eating too much black licorice. Cardiac specialist Dr. Neil Batala explains how it happened.
A patient came into our hospital with a cardiac arrest, and we looked into what could have caused it. And in terms of all the usual causes, we actually ruled that out, a lot of the testing we did. And then we actually found his potassium level was super low, which is pretty rare for someone with a cardiac arrest. To be this low in potassium. We thought about the different causes for that. And ultimately, you know, a classic thing you learn about in medical school is licorice. Licorice toxicity can lead to incredibly low potassium levels. And so we ended up asking the family to say, hey, you know, what could be causing this? You know, does he eat a lot of candy? And to our surprise, we actually learned that he ate a fair amount of black licorice.
Sussex, Meghan Markle has lost her latest High Court battle with the media after a judge ruled that she can be accused of collaborating with the authors of a book about her life with Prince Harry. UK-based newspaper The Mail has been given permission to amend its defence in a legal battle with Meghan. While allowing the newspaper to alter its defence, the judge mentioned that while this is not a judgment on the strength of the Mail's case, the requested amendments are relevant to the case. Last week, the paper had applied for permission to amend its case, arguing that the couple had cooperated with a biography about them, which was published in August and that showed Meghan had intended some private details to become public, including the contents of the letter. Now, Meghan's lawyer, meanwhile, argued that any accusations about the couple collaborating with the authors was a conspiracy theory and said that any references to the letter in the book were simply extracts from the letter lifted from articles published by The Mail.